Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to get to talk with you. Um, I would, if you don't mind, first just introducing yourself to our wonderful viewers.
My name is Gina DeDomenico, and I'm a costume concept artist for movies and television.
Your concept costume art is amazing.
You.
I found your website and I was, scrolling through all the amazing projects you've worked on. How did you get involved in art?
Well, honestly, I've always been an artist. As a kid, I was drawing on everything on the walls and making messes for my parents. But through my teen years, I was also expressing myself as an artist, but I didn't even realize it. Like I'd paint all the sets in the theater for the shows, and I did all the cartoons for the school newspaper. And I I identified myself, and I felt special because I was doing those things and everybody liked it, but I never knew that there was a career in art. And I hold my parents responsible a little bit for that because they were academics. And so they were like, oh, that's so cute that you can do that. And everybody loves when you do those little drawings.
Mhm.
But I had to go to college for academics, and art was something that was just a fun thing that you do that could never be a career. So I that was my idea of as I started growing up and going through my teen years. I loved being an artist, but I didn't know I was because I just thought it was a hobby.
So the
So when I
passion just came naturally to you and it just felt inherent to who you were.
It did. It did. But I just thought it was a little personality trait. I didn't think it was a lifelong, fabulous experience. It's just so what happened was I went to college and I really couldn't identify with anything other than I was also in all the theater productions. So I thought, well, maybe I want to be an actress, which I can't imagine was any better than being an illustrator. I just like, wait a minute, that's now that I look back, it's like, oh, that's way worse than being an artist is an actress. Oh my God. But so I thought I wanted to be an actress, and my parents didn't seem to fight me too much on that. I guess probably because I wasn't academic at all. And so I went to a regular college and went into their acting program, which was a good acting program. And after a couple years, I decided that I had it was just wasn't for me. And the only thing I could think of that I could even do remotely was art. And so I switched to an art school in San Francisco and took all the different art classes. And that's when it was like, oh no, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. And I just didn't think about, working and having income. I just thought I'm just going to get through school and see what happens.
Mhm.
So
That's awesome. So, just a sidebar question, as you said you took all those different art classes, is that when you discovered that you wanted to do, costume concepts or, did you just, like, fall into it or,
okay. So I took all the different classes, and the one that I understood or felt the best about was fashion illustration. And at that time, photography hadn't taken over, and in the newspapers it was all illustrations, black
Mm.
and white illustrations. And so I thought I'm going to be a fashion illustrator. And so I got to my second year of art school, and someone from Parsons School of Design in New York had was visiting the school and saw my work. And they pulled me aside and said, come to Parsons, and you should be an illustrator, a fashion illustrator who can also design. So you'll be a fashion designer, and if you're able to illustrate, you'll do really well. And I thought, okay. And at that time, I had the ability to move to New York and go to school there. And
Mhm.
so I did that, and I graduated, and I was hired. I did really well and I was really happy. And I was hired by Bob Mackey right out of school, who did the Carol Burnett show. And I looked at his proposal, and basically what he was offering me was not quite enough for me to pay my rent in New York. And so I did the numbers and I thought, I can't stay here. I've got to leave. So I moved to Los Angeles and thought, well, what can I do in Los Angeles. And I went to work for a sportswear company, and I was doing that for 2 years, and I was unhappy. Everything that I had learned in fashion design school wasn't at all what happened in the real world of fashion. And it was I just found the fashion world depressing. And so I thought, okay, now what am I going to do? So I had this long like arc of figuring out what I wanted to do. So after 2 years of working for a sportswear company, I thought, okay, I got to quit. What else can I do? And I thought, well, I'll get into costume design, because that's fashion design, costume design is kind of the same world. Here I am in LA. And so I did some research, and I found out that you have to get into the union, the Costume Designers Guild, to be able to work. And there were 3 categories. It was costume designer, assistant designer, and illustrator. And I thought, okay, how do you get into each one? And you had to have all these credits to get in as a designer or an assistant designer, even though that's what I thought I wanted to do. But this illustration one, you could get into the guild if you just had a portfolio. So I called and said, what do you need in the portfolio? I illustrated everything they needed, and I got in. Okay, so knowing that the only way to work in movies is to be part of a union, I got into the union without any credits, and I started working as an illustrator at that time. And there's a difference between a costume illustrator and a costume concept artist, but we can get into that a little bit later. So in the early years, I started getting small jobs as an illustrator because the guild is like a family. And so once you're in, there's a members directory, there are events, they help each other, they support each other. And so I was able to find little jobs here and there and get myself going. And one of the first people who hired me was Ruth Carter, who just got a star on the Walk of Fame, and she's won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
She was my first job, and she was just kind of starting out too. We were on Meteor Man, and we had done a couple movies together early on for Spike Lee. She was doing the Spike Lee movies. And so that was my start. And it was all because of the Costume Designers Guild, which was great. And so what happened was I had no idea about this illustrator job. I was just trying to get into the guild.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I started working as an illustrator, I thought, this is great. I mean, it was a reason why I went to fashion design school, because I was in my illustration talent. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I'm fine here. This is where I'm staying. I love this. And so that was the early 90s. So I've been doing this for a while.
Wow, what a fun start though. I mean, just to like find that path and see like, like that feeling of this is where I'm meant to be and this is what I'm supposed to do. It's just when stuff like that clicks, you're like, yes. So
it took a while though. And my daughters, just one of them is going into college, one of them just got out of college, and they're like, Mom, I'm taking this job and I'm taking that job, and it just doesn't feel right. And don't worry, just keep moving forward. You will find what makes you happy. You don't have to know right now. It's impossible to know right now. You just have to follow your nose and keep moving forward and staying positive and working hard, and you'll get there. You'll get to what you're supposed to be doing. But don't panic, because then they know my story. It took me a while. Mm-hmm. And then once I hit it, I hit it. And now once you figure out what you want to do, then it's putting in the hours to become the best at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hours and constant learning.
Yeah.
Like Daz, like learning Daz.
Which we'll talk about in just a minute, but I'd love to ask you, like what inspires you and sparks your creativity when you go into these projects or just in general?
What happens is when I start illustrating a character, there's someone who's worked very hard to get me all the research that has to be done. So what I get is I get a multitude of research from history. Like, for example, the superhero characters that I work on now, I'll get information on their powers and their character from the 1920s to now. And sometimes they go through like 20 different changes of costume. And you have to figure out their arc too as people. So I'm inspired by all the research, And then the designer sits with me and says, here's my take on this character and where we need to go with this character. And so I find inspiration in the research and what the designer's vision. And I bring those two things together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So, I know you slightly mentioned Daz, so we're gonna bring it back to Daz. How did you discover and start working with Daz?
Um, okay, so what all the concept artists were doing for a long time that do exactly what I do is we would go on the internet and we'd find poses that were 2D. And it was rare that we could find them nude, which we need nude poses. We'd find like bathing suit poses and we'd try to find the most minimal amount of clothing, whether it was like a workout outfit or something. So we're struggling now with finding the right pose for the character, because once you figure out who your character is, you know exactly how they need to stand. I mean, there's a lot that goes into choosing a pose for your character.
Mm-hmm.
Because the character and the clothing says everything about who they are, just the way they're weighted, they're where they keep their weight. I mean, it's just the pose describes them halfway, and the look on their face. And so it was really hard for us because we were chopping bodies up. Like I'd find a lower half on a bathing suit model and an upper half on a girl working out. And then I'd have to go to sites that were like um, porn sites to find like images. And some of them were really elegant, but still it was like, oh God, surfing these, it was not a great feeling to find your poses. And so we're Frankensteining like the arm from here and a leg from here. And still we're working flat 2D. And then we'd have the problem of, well, the lighting's coming from the upper right on the arm and the light is coming from the lower left on the legs. So it was horrible. It was horrible. And it took a lot of time and a lot of work to pull our poses together. And we could rarely use a pose from a previous character for a future character. They're just different. And also the actor has measurements. And sometimes actors have the shorter legs or the longer legs or the long torso or the heavy in the hips or really square shoulders. And so we were having to do it that way. And then 2 years ago, Philip Boutet, who's an incredible illustrator, and he was working on the Madonna tour. And he was desperately looking for a posing website, or not a posing, software. Thank you. So he was desperately looking for posing software and he found Daz. And after using it, and it worked, and after using it for a couple months, he called all of us and said, you guys, you have to do this. You have to use this. And he was just so excited about it that we thought, okay, we'll take a look. Ever since, so there's probably 10 of us who now are diligent about it's part of our process. It's how we start. Now we have everything at our fingertips. We can create whatever measurement, whatever skin color. I just did the Alien Queen or the Boar Queen for the Gnome workshop, and I was able to purchase an alien figure and tweak it to where it was, it's incredible how you can make the veins pop or the veins go back down, and make the arms long and the arms shorter. And to have that freedom and not have to chop everything up, it's made our workflow and our job, it's made us more successful at our jobs.
That's awesome. So would you say it has helped improve your workflow and the conceptual process?
Oh yeah. I can't now imagine starting an illustration without Daz. That it's part of why I'm good at what I do, because I can create these characters just using Daz. And a lot of the illustrators now, which I haven't done yet, but they're showing me and saying I've got to do it, they're also now using environments, and they also choose all the lighting, which is incredible about Daz. You can light it from every different angle, which I haven't had to. I just get in, the interface is really easy, and I pop out and I get exactly what I need. But now I'm seeing how they're really manipulating lighting. They're now buying all the environments and setting their characters in the environment. And they're also using clothing. Like, for example, I'll have a character that's in a walking pose, and it's really hard to figure out what a shoe, the right shoe is going to look like lifted up and in the background. But if you use a shoe that Daz has, even if it's not exactly right, it gives you, okay, I see the foreshortening and I see how it's going to look. And then I pop it into Photoshop and put the right shoe on it. But it's given me so much information that, again, it makes my life easier and makes me better at what I do. Because now that shoe doesn't look funny anymore. Because if you have to imagine it, it's a lot harder to imagine it. Like sometimes I would take my daughters and make them pose so I could see what things would look like in that exact pose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice. It gives us so much information.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I love to hear that you love using it. That's great.
Oh,
So I have to ask, what has been one of your favorite projects, whether it's a movie or series, that you've concepted while working with Daz?
um, the boys, the boys and Titans.
Nice.
And most of the stuff that I've used it for, I still can't talk about because I've used it about 2 years and I have about a year of work that I can't say anything. I couldn't, and I've got some things that you're going to show, unless we've probably already been showing them, but that, and I feel like there's so much more I wish I could show you, but maybe next year if we do this again, I'll show you all the stuff, all the secret stuff I'm working on now.
Such a tease. I guess we'll definitely have to come back for more, but you're just going to keep us waiting in suspense, and we can't wait to see what else you've concepted using Daz.
Yeah. So yeah. So the Titans, the two characters from Titans, Starfire and Blackfire, were really fun. And as you can see, Daz like made a huge difference there. And then the boys. I started second season of the boys. I was able to start using Daz. First season, I wasn't using it, and you can see the difference in the illustrations. I mean, using a 2D image versus the 3D lighting of Daz just makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that. That sounds great. And would you say, like you learned, did you have to go through this whole process of learning Daz, or did it come somewhat easy to you, or was it easy to adapt, I guess, into
Okay.
the workflow?
I am terrified of 3D. The whole 3D interface, I've been trying to learn ZBrush, and all the other concept artists have got ZBrush all figured out, and they're taking their Daz poses and putting them in ZBrush. So they're modeling 3D over their Daz poses. So all the armor and everything that we have to build, they're using Daz for that. After they build it in Daz, they're putting it in ZBrush. So I'm afraid of 3D, and I'm trying to get over it. And I went into Daz going, oh God, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And literally I had a pose. The first time I ever went into it, I had a pose done in maybe 20 minutes. The interface is easy. It's intuitive. It totally makes sense. It's just easy for someone who is afraid of it or doesn't even know it. And I swear every day, okay, I have to take a Daz tutorial today, because it's like I'm in a room. It's like I'm in a 20 house, a room. Let me try that again. It's like I'm in a house that has like 20 rooms, and all I've done is walked into the entryway. Like I've stood in the entryway, I'm grabbing what I need, and I've left. And I'm a better artist just by going in the entryway. But there's all these rooms that I don't even know I don't even access yet. And so I know there's so much, and I'm watching the other illustrators show me things. It's like, oh my God, like just putting our characters in an atmosphere. There's like a complete Western town that Greg Hopwood, another concept artist, was showing me. He's taking his pose and he's putting it over there in that part of the town. He's taking it over there and putting it that part of the town, which, because we always have to do backgrounds.
Mhm.
So now we're starting to use Daz for backgrounds also. And we choose our backgrounds by what the script says, where the character is, and there's all that available to you in Daz also. And so I have to, what I do now is enough, but there's knowing that I can be a better artist if I just start, taking the time to figure out all those other rooms. I have to do that.
I mean, that's a great analogy. I love that. You know what I mean? Like you're just opening the door and you still have this whole new world to explore, but the fact that, you can create a full 360 concept for your costume is amazing. And I love to hear that you enjoy using Daz and it has helped you improve your creative process and workflow.
Something else that we've had to do when you're a costume concept artist is you have to do a front, a side, and a back. So in the beginning, when we were chopping up all those bodies, all those 2D images, and then having to paint over them, I would then have to go in and find a back view that matched the front view that I just chopped up, which is so hard. But in Daz, I get my front view and then I just turn it, and I get my side view and I turn it, and I have my back view within seconds. I mean, it's so now, and as you can see, with what I've given you to show, I have everything at my fingertips like right away. So I can be, again, really good at my job.
Well, I mean, you are obviously really good at your job, just even looking at the photos behind you, all those.
Yeah.
uh, but this has been really great. I've loved talking with you about all things that you've done with Daz, all the amazing work that you've come up with. And you briefly talked about your workshop that you participated in. Do you want us to give a little tease of what that is, and we can link it out for people to access?
Well, in the 90s, I was just 2 years old. I was a concept artist for First Contact. And so, and I illustrated the Borg Queen. And so what I did was I took the original Borg Queen illustration and put it through what it would be like if I did it now, using Daz and Photoshop and all digital art. So I went through my process. I'm teaching people how to be a concept artist and showing them the before, and here's the after, and here's how you do it now. And Daz is a huge part of my process that I show. So that was fun because it is like so different, like the difference between the old way and the new way. Now, the old way, you do end up with a painting that's tactile, that there's gouache and it's bristle paper, and you can frame it, and there's that feel to it. But if I wanted to make it blue or red or green or shorten this or take away this, I would have had to start all over again.
Every single time.
Every single change you would have to start all over again. So as much it was kind of cool to have a piece of art, it really wasn't. I mean, the way it is now, it's so much more effective, for really working and really seeing what are our options. And even now, like with the budgets, like, okay, we have a budget for full armor suit. Well, maybe our budget just got slashed, and now let's do half of it armor. So you just whip it off. You have all these layers, you just turn them off. Whereas before it'd be like, okay, we'll start all over again with the whole character all over again. And so that's what I did. And it was fun showing the before and the after.
Amazing.
The workshop was done for the Gnomon School, a digital art school. It's incredible. And I'm so proud to have a workshop on their site.
That's amazing. I'm excited for you and excited for them. And we'll link out to the workshop. So then if people want to view it, they'll have the opportunity to.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Tell us a little more about your experience with Daz and all the amazing art you have come up with. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for your time.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Daz is such an important part of my life right now, so I'm honored.
Oh, well, that's great. And I can't wait to see what else you come up with. It's
Thank you. I'll show you next time.
perfect. Wonderful. I look forward to it. Thank you again.